Everyone laughed when she married a poor man until the world learned her husband was a millionaire. Love Millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories every week. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you so much. Now, let us go back to our main character. The church bell tolled at exactly 3 p.m, echoing through the gray skies of a small town in Connecticut. Inside the modest chapel, guests whispered behind lace gloves and tilted hats. The bride's dress was not new. The hem had been restitched by her own hands the night before, and the bouquet she held was made of wildflowers from the roadside. The groom stood quietly at the altar, tall, calm, his suit slightly wrinkled, his shoes dull from years of wear. But it was not his appearance that drew the crowd's stares. It was what they believed about him. They said Sofia Martinez, the cafe girl who barely made rent, had lost her mind. They said the man she was marrying, Daniel Cole, was a drifter, a poor mechanic who once slept in his truck behind the diner. Someone even whispered loud enough for her to hear. He could not even buy her a real ring. And they were right, at least about that. The ring on Sofia's finger was silver, thin, and cost less than a meal at McDonald's. But Daniel's eyes never left hers, and there was something in his gaze steady, almost defiant, that silenced her doubts. When the priest began to speak, thunder rumbled above the stained glass windows. It was as if heaven itself disapproved. A few guests laughed nervously. One woman filmed it on her phone, whispering, "This will go viral tonight. The waitress marrying the beggar." Quote. Sofia's fingers trembled, but she refused to let go of Daniel's hand. He squeezed back gently, whispering, "Ignore them. We are not marrying for them." The vow slipped out of his mouth with a quiet certainty that did not match his worn-out clothes, and for a fleeting moment the room fell silent. The camera flashes stopped. Even the rain outside paused. Then, as the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Sofia smiled softly, bravely, maybe foolishly, and kissed him. A single clap echoed in the back pew, sarcastic and sharp. Let us see how long that fairy tale lasts. It was an odd wedding, too plain for a celebration, too defiant for a mistake. Something about it felt wrong to everyone watching, except the two people at its center. Maybe it was the way Daniel never looked surprised, as if he had known every insult that would come. Maybe it was how his calm felt rehearsed. When they walked out of the chapel, flashes from the phones lit the steps like lightning. The hashtag number Poor Man Rich Love appeared online before the couple reached the old blue pickup parked outside. Within minutes, comments flooded in mocking, judging, debating whether true love could survive without money. Sofia sat beside Daniel in the truck, bouquet wilting in her lap. He started the engine, the sound rough and uneven. She turned to him, half smiling through the ache in her chest. "Do you regret this already?" He shook his head. "No, I regret not finding you sooner." The truck rolled down the hill, splashing through puddles as rain began again. Through the windshield, the world blurred into streaks of gray and gold. Sofia leaned her head against the window, wondering what kind of life began with laughter and thunder. Her voice, barely above a whisper, carried into the storm. "Maybe they will stop laughing when they see who you really are." He did not answer. Only the faintest smile curved his lips as if he already knew that day would come. Rain still fell the next morning, soft and steady, the kind that smelled like metal and asphalt. Sofia stood by the small apartment window, holding a chipped mug of instant coffee. The wildflowers from her wedding bouquet lay wilted in a glass jar on the table. She looked out at the parking lot where Daniel's old blue truck sat, streaked with rain and rust. He was outside, bent over the hood, sleeves rolled up, trying to make the engine breathe again. They had been married for less than 24 hours, yet the world had already made its judgment. The video from their wedding had gone viral overnight. A million strangers had watched it, laughed, argued, and moved on. But for Sofia, those words lingered like smoke. The comments replayed in her mind. She just ruined her life. Gold digger in reverse. They will not last a week. Quote. She set the mug down too hard. The crack in the ceramic widened. Daniel walked in, wet hair dripping onto the floor. "The truck needs a new alternator," he said. His voice was calm, ordinary, as if the world had not been watching them burn. Sofia tried to smile. "Can we afford that?" He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "I will figure it out." There was something about the way he said it, steady, quiet, certain. It reminded her of the way he had spoken at the altar when everyone had laughed. They ate breakfast together, 2 eggs, 1 piece of toast, split in half. Sofia could not stop thinking about how easily people online had turned their love into entertainment. Daniel noticed the silence but did not push. He only reached across the table, his hand rough but warm against hers. Let them talk. We know what is real. Later that day, Sofia walked to the small cafe where she used to work. The owner, Mrs. Brown, looked up in surprise. Back already? I thought you would be on your honeymoon? Sofia forced a laugh. Honeymoon requires money. Mrs. Brown hesitated before handing her a tray. You can help out for a few shifts if you want. Tips have been good lately. The cafe smelled of coffee beans and cinnamon. The regular customers turned to whisper the moment Sofia walked in. Someone pulled up the viral video on their phone and smirked. She kept her head down and kept serving, pretending not to hear. By noon, Daniel appeared outside the cafe. His clothes were still the same, clean but plain, the kind you bought secondhand and wore until the fabric forgot its color. He waited for her break, sitting by the window with a small paper cup of coffee. When she joined him, he smiled gently. Do you want to see something? He led her down the street to an empty building. A faded sign above the door read Carter Community Garage. Inside, the smell of oil and metal lingered in the air. Dust covered every surface, but the tools were neatly arranged, untouched for years. My father ran this place before he passed away, Daniel said quietly. It has been closed since then. I thought maybe I could reopen it. Fix cars, help people who cannot afford repairs. Sofia looked around. The space was small but solid. You want to start from scratch? He nodded. Every good engine needs rebuilding at least once. One. There was a strange light in his eyes, something she could not define. Hope, maybe. Or guilt. That night, they cleaned together. Sofia scrubbed the counters. Daniel fixed the flickering light bulb. It was hard work, but laughter filled the air for the first time since the wedding. She realized she had never seen him happier than when he was holding a wrench. When they finally sat down on the floor, exhausted, Daniel handed her a bottle of water. You know, he said softly, people think we have nothing. But maybe this, he gestured around the dusty shop, is where everything starts. Sofia smiled through the sweat on her forehead. I do not care what they think. If you believe in this, then so do I. Outside, the rain had stopped. Through the open door, a thin ray of sunset spilled across the concrete floor, painting them both in gold. For the first time since their wedding, Sofia did not hear laughter. She heard only the sound of possibility. Morning light filtered through the dusty windows of the garage, cutting across the floor in golden lines. Sofia arrived with 2 cups of coffee from the cafe and found Daniel already working under the hood of an old sedan. His hands were covered in grease, his hair damp with sweat, and yet there was something peaceful about him. Like this was exactly where he belonged. She placed the coffee on the table and smiled. You started early again. Gwan? Daniel straightened up, wiped his hands on a rag and said, Engines do not fix themselves. He took the coffee, nodded in thanks, and turned back to the car. The sound of tools clinking against metal filled the air, steady and rhythmic like a heartbeat. Sofia sat on a stool watching him work. He looked different here, not like the quiet man at the altar, but someone confident, focused, and strangely sure of himself. Over the next few days, the garage became their second home. Sofia painted the front door blue, the same shade as his truck. Daniel repaired the wiring and rewired the sign. When he flipped the switch, the words Carter Community Garage glowed again for the first time in years. She clapped, laughing, but he only smiled with that same calm she had begun to recognize as his armor. That night, as they shared instant noodles at the workbench, Sofia glanced at him and asked, Do you ever wish for more? A bigger life, maybe? Daniel paused, chopsticks in hand. More what? I do not know, she said softly. Money, security, respect. People look at us like we are a joke. He leaned back, eyes thoughtful. Let them. We cannot change what people see, but we can change what is real. His words stayed with her long after they finished eating. The next morning, a man in a suit stopped by the garage. He introduced himself as Mr. Lewis, from the city inspection department. He held a clipboard and a skeptical look. You are reopening this place? He asked. Daniel nodded. That is the plan. Mr. Lewis circled the room, tapping on pipes, checking outlets. You need a business license, safety permits, and a new insurance plan. It will cost you. How much? Sofia asked. $2,000 at least. Sofia's heart dropped. She knew they did not have that kind of money. Daniel's jaw tightened. Thank you for the information, sir. We will take care of it. After the inspector left, Sofia turned to him. Daniel, that is a lot. We can find another way. He wiped his hands again, calm as ever. We will manage. There it was again, his certainty, his quiet confidence that everything would work out. It should have comforted her, but instead, it made her uneasy. That evening, when she went to the cafe, she overheard two customers talking about the viral video. Did you see that poor wedding girl? They say the guy she married used to be rich, but lost everything gambling. Sofia froze. She turned and saw Daniel's picture on one of their phones, his face blurred, but recognizable. Her chest tightened. Who was spreading that rumor? When she returned home, Daniel was sitting on the couch, counting a small stack of cash. I sold a few things, he said simply. Old tools, the radio. Enough to cover part of the permit. She nodded, but could not shake the feeling that something did not add up. His clothes were still plain, but there was a faint scent of cologne she had never smelled before. His hands were clean, his nails trimmed perfectly. Later that night, she found a folded envelope tucked inside his jacket. Inside was a checkbook with the name Daniel Carter printed in embossed letters. Her breath caught. Carter, the same name on the garage sign. But she said nothing. She slipped the checkbook back, heart racing. As she lay beside him that night, unable to sleep, Daniel whispered into the dark, "Whatever happens, just trust me, Sofia." She did not reply. The rain had started again outside, gentle but persistent, tapping against the window like a quiet warning. Before we move on, what about you? Have you ever felt that someone you love might be hiding something that could change everything if revealed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The next morning, Sofia woke up to the smell of coffee and the soft hum of the radio. Daniel was at the counter, flipping pancakes in a worn-out pan, humming quietly to a tune that seemed too calm for how restless her mind felt. She sat up slowly, her eyes landing on his jacket hanging on the chair, the one that hid the checkbook marked Daniel Carter. Her pulse quickened, but she forced herself to smile when he turned around. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning, Mrs. Cole," he answered with a grin. "Breakfast is served." She joined him at the small table, pretending everything was normal. He talked about fixing the old red pickup that afternoon, about maybe hiring a local boy to help clean the garage. She nodded and responded just enough to keep his rhythm, but every word she spoke tasted like questions she could not yet ask. After breakfast, she walked to the cafe for her shift. The world outside was starting to thaw from winter, but her thoughts were frozen in place. The name Carter echoed in her head like a bell she could not silence. During her break, Mrs. Brown slid a newspaper across the counter. "You might want to see this," she whispered. On the front page was a headline, "Carter Industries announces philanthropy expansion, CEO still missing." Below it, a photo of a man in a suit, older, clean-shaven, smiling before a row of microphones. The resemblance was undeniable. Daniel. Sofia's hands trembled. She folded the paper and tucked it into her apron. When she returned home that evening, Daniel was at the garage, sleeves rolled up, teaching a neighborhood boy how to change oil. He looked up and waved when he saw her, smiling as if nothing in the world could be wrong. She waited until the boy left before speaking. "Daniel, can I ask you something?" He wiped his hands on a rag and looked at her. "Of course." She took a deep breath. "Who are you, really?" The smile on his face faltered, just for a second. "What do you mean?" "I found your checkbook," she said quietly. "And today I saw a newspaper. Daniel Carter. That is you, isn't it?" The silence that followed felt endless. The hum of the garage light, the ticking of an unseen clock, even the wind outside, all seemed to hold their breath. Finally, Daniel set the rag down and leaned against the workbench. "Yes," he said softly. "It was supposed to come out differently. I wanted to tell you when the time was right." Sofia stared at him. Why lie to me? Why pretend to be poor? His eyes met hers, calm but tired. "Because I needed to know if anyone could love me without the name, without the money, without the noise. Everyone around me wanted something. I just wanted to find something real." Her throat tightened. "You tested me," she whispered. "I tested myself," he said. "And I failed. Because now the truth hurts you." Sofia turned away, tears stinging her eyes. "Do you know what it feels like to build trust with someone who never really existed?" He stepped closer, his voice trembling for the first time. "Sofia, I was real with you. Every moment, every word, every touch, that was me. The money never mattered." She shook her head. "It mattered when you chose to hide it." The garage fell silent again. Outside, the sky was fading from gold to gray, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Daniel whispered, "I am sorry." Quote. She took her bag, walked to the door, and said, So am I. When the door shut behind her, Daniel stood motionless for a long time, listening to the rain hit the roof. Later that night, he sat alone in the dark garage, staring at the glowing sign that read Carter Community Garage. His reflection in the glass looked like two men, the one the world knew, and the one he wished he could be. He whispered to no one, "Maybe she was the only real thing I ever found." Guy. Sofia did not go back to the garage the next day. She packed a small bag, left a note on the kitchen table, and took the morning bus toward the city. The note said only one line: "I need time to think." The ride was quiet, except for the low hum of the engine and the rain streaking across the window. She stared at her reflection, half expecting to see the same woman who had stood at the altar just a few weeks ago. But she looked different now, tired, older, more aware of how fragile love could be when built on secrets. When the bus stopped, she stepped into the gray light of downtown. The world moved fast here, people rushing with umbrellas, coffee cups, and phones. No one looked at her twice, and that anonymity felt like relief. She walked aimlessly until she found herself in front of a small soup kitchen. The sign on the door read, "Open Hands. Everyone deserves a warm meal." Inside, the smell of bread and stew filled the air. Volunteers were setting up tables, laughter mixing with the sound of metal spoons and clinking dishes. "Do you need help, miss?" a woman asked gently. Sofia hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I can serve or clean, whatever you need." They handed her an apron, and she began pouring soup into bowls. The work was simple but grounding. Each smile she received reminded her that kindness still existed, even when trust was broken. Hours passed. When the last bowl was served, Sofia sat on the back steps looking out at the rain. Her phone buzzed. Dozens of missed calls from Daniel, and one new message. "I will not come looking for you, but the garage is still open, and the door is never locked." She read the message 3 times, then slipped the phone back into her pocket. For the next week, she worked at the soup kitchen every day. She helped organize food drives and even started sketching a new project board titled Meals on Wheels for families in need. One afternoon, while cleaning tables, she overheard 2 men talking near the entrance. "Did you hear about that Carter Foundation announcement?" one said. "They are funding community kitchens across the state." The other man nodded. "Yeah, the CEO said it was inspired by someone who showed him what real generosity looks like." Sofia froze. The air caught in her lungs. She turned toward the TV mounted on the wall. There he was, Daniel, clean-cut, confident, standing behind a podium with the Carter logo shining behind him. He was speaking to a crowd, his voice steady and full of emotion. "True wealth is not measured by what you keep, but by what you give. Someone once taught me that when I had nothing. This is for her and for everyone who has ever given without expecting anything back." The room erupted in applause. Sofia blinked through her tears. She realized he was not hiding anymore. He was finally doing what he was meant to do, and she could either keep running from the pain or step back into the story they started together. That evening, she walked back to the garage. The lights were still on. Through the open door, she saw Daniel sitting on the floor, back against the wall, the same worn-out jacket beside him. When he noticed her, he stood up slowly, as if afraid she might disappear again. "I thought you were gone for good," he said quietly. "I thought so too," she replied. "But then I saw what you did." He looked down, almost shy. "I did not do it for the cameras. I did it because it was the only way I knew how to say sorry." Sofia took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "You hurt me, Daniel. But maybe some broken things can be rebuilt." He nodded, a faint smile returning. "Engines, hearts, it takes patience, but they can run again. You." She stepped closer, close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes. "Then let us start with patience." Outside, the rain had stopped. Inside, the air felt lighter, as if forgiveness itself had opened a window. And for the first time since everything fell apart, Sofia believed they might have a chance to build something real, not on lies, but on truth. For the first time in weeks, the garage was filled with sound again, not of rain, but of tools, laughter, and the soft hum of hope returning. Sofia and Daniel worked side by side, repairing what was broken both in machines and between them. The smell of oil mixed with the scent of coffee from the thermos she brought every morning. It was not perfect, but it was real. Days turned into weeks. They reopened the Carter Community Garage officially, but this time, it was not just a repair shop. Daniel had placed a small sign by the entrance: free maintenance for single parents and veterans every Friday. The first time someone walked in, a woman with 2 kids and a broken car door, Sofia handled it like she had been waiting for that moment her whole life. While Daniel replaced a battery, She sat with the children, drawing on scraps of cardboard. She smiled when they laughed, realizing how far she had come from that girl who once hid behind shame. In the evenings, Daniel and Sofia cooked dinner together in the small kitchen behind the garage. They talked less about the past and more about what could be built next, yet the outside world had not forgotten them. One morning, as Sofia opened her phone, a headline flashed across the screen. "Viral wedding, couple reunite, is it a PR move?" Her stomach tightened. She scrolled through the comments, some supportive, most cruel. She went back for the money. Classic redemption stunt. Nothing real about this love story. Quote. She turned off the screen, feeling the sting of the words even though she had promised herself not to care anymore. When Daniel came in, wiping his hands on a towel, he noticed her expression. "Another article?" She nodded silently. He sighed. "They will always have something to say, Sofia. The internet loves a villain, even when they have to invent one." She looked up at him. "And what are we then? The villains or the fools?" "Maybe both," he said gently. "But at least we are honest fools now." That made her laugh, a short, genuine laugh that seemed to push the shadows away. That afternoon, a news crew arrived unexpectedly. The reporter introduced herself politely and asked for a short interview about the story of the couple who proved that love survives scandal. Daniel hesitated, but Sofia agreed. The reporter smiled, microphone raised. "Sofia, people online still question your decision to stay with Daniel after learning who he really is. What would you say to them?" Sofia paused, her eyes steady on the camera. "I would say that love is not about what you discover in someone. It is about what you choose to build with them after the discovery." The room went quiet for a moment. Even the cameraman lowered his lens slightly. Later that night, the video of that interview went viral again, but this time, the comments were different. People wrote about forgiveness, about second chances, about finding truth in unexpected places. Still, there were critics. There always were. That weekend, as the sun dipped behind the garage, Sofia and Daniel sat on the hood of his truck, sharing the last cup of coffee. The sign outside flickered softly in the dusk. "Do you ever wish we could disappear?" she asked. He smiled. "Disappear? No. But I do wish people could see what we see." "And what is that?" "That broken things can still run beautifully when you take the time to understand them." Quote. She rested her head on his shoulder, watching the light fade. The hum of passing cars filled the silence. "I guess we are still rebuilding," she whispered. "We always will be," he replied. As the night settled, the sound of laughter from inside the garage echoed faintly. Children, volunteers, the noise of a life being pieced together. Sofia closed her eyes, letting the warmth of that moment sink in. The world might keep talking, but for now, she had peace. Before we move on, what about you? Do you believe people deserve a second chance after breaking trust? Or does love change once truth is revealed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The news about Daniel's charity project spread faster than either of them expected. Within a week, articles, videos, and interviews filled Sofia's phone again, this time not mocking but praising. People were calling Daniel a redeemed millionaire, the man who turned a scandal into a symbol of generosity. Sofia should have been happy, but something about the noise unsettled her. She had learned that public applause often came with invisible expectations. Daniel noticed her silence. They were in the garage late one night, finishing another volunteer repair project. The lights hummed softly above them. Sofia sat on the workbench, hands stained with grease, while Daniel tightened the last bolt on an engine. "You've not said much lately," he said, without looking up. She forced a smile. "You have been busy saving the world." He stopped for a moment and looked at her. "We have been busy. You are part of this too." Sofia nodded, but her heart did not fully agree. Since the media had discovered who Daniel really was, everything felt different. Reporters visited the community center, cameras appeared at the garage, and even their quiet dinners were interrupted by strangers who wanted photos. The intimacy that had once defined them was slowly slipping away. The next morning, Sofia arrived at the center earlier than usual. She walked past the mural she had painted, running her fingers over the dry colors. Children were laughing in the distance, and for a brief second, peace returned. Then she heard two voices near the front entrance. "I heard she knew who he was all along," one woman whispered. "Of course she did," another replied. "No one marries a poor man for love anymore." The words hit Sofia like a cold wave. She turned to face them, her voice steady but sharp. "If you are going to talk about me, at least have the courage to do it honestly." The women fell silent, embarrassed, and left quickly. Sofia exhaled and pressed her palms against the cool wall. Later that day, Daniel came by with reporters again. He wanted to announce a new partnership with another charity. He smiled for the cameras, shaking hands, saying all the right things. Sofia stood beside him, smiling too, but her eyes gave away the truth she felt invisible. When the crowd finally dispersed, Daniel found her sitting outside on the steps, staring at the sky. The sunset painted the street gold, but her expression remained distant. He sat next to her. "You hate this, do you not?" "I do not hate what you are doing," she said quietly. "I just hate what it is turning us into." Daniel sighed. "This was never about fame, you know that." "I know," she said. "But sometimes it feels like I am losing the man I met in the rain, the one who fixed cars and gave his last umbrella to a stranger." He smiled faintly. "That man is still here, Sofia. The world just knows his name now." She turned to him, her voice trembling. "Do you ever wish you could go back, before the truth came out?" Daniel thought for a moment. "No, because even with all the noise, even with the cameras and the rumors, I would rather live honestly with you than hide behind another lie." Sofia looked away, tears shining in her eyes. "Then promise me one thing. Promise me that when this all fades, when the world stops clapping, we will still be us." He reached for her hand. "I promise." The street grew quiet around them. The last of the sun dipped behind the garage, leaving only the soft glow of string lights overhead. In that calm, Sofia realized that love was not about how loud the world applauded, but how quietly two people could still hold on when the noise stopped. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "Tomorrow, let us work at the center without cameras," he said. "Just us." She smiled through the tears. "That sounds perfect." For a moment, time felt still again, their world reduced to warm light, quiet hearts, and the fragile truth that somehow survived everything. Weeks later, the rhythm of their days began to feel like peace, a fragile, precious thing that Sofia feared could vanish at any moment. But life had a way of testing what was newly rebuilt. One crisp Saturday morning, Daniel drove her to the edge of town to show her something. The air smelled of pine and early frost. "Close your eyes," he said, leading her down a narrow path. When she opened them, a small building stood before her, old bricks, boarded windows, a faded sign that once read Maple Youth Center. "It has been abandoned for years," he said softly. "But I bought it back. I want to turn it into something more." Sofia's eyes widened. "A shelter?" He smiled. "A place for learning, art, food, and care. For anyone who has ever been invisible." She touched the cracked brick wall, imagining the laughter that could fill it again. "You want to rebuild this?" "We want to rebuild it," Daniel corrected gently. And they did. For weeks, they painted walls, replaced glass, and cleaned floors until the light returned to the rooms. Local families volunteered. Mechanics, teachers, even old customers from Sofia's cafe came by to help. Daniel worked shoulder to shoulder with them, never once acting like a man of wealth. Yet word spread fast. Journalists began to arrive again. Photos circulated online: Daniel Carter, the millionaire who lived like a mechanic. Rumors grew, twisting kindness into spectacle. One evening, Sofia overheard a conversation outside the center. Two volunteers whispered near the gate. "She is smart," one said. "Marry a millionaire by pretending not to know who he is? Genius move." Sofia's hands clenched around the paint roller. She stepped outside, her voice steady but sharp. "If you have something to say it to me." Quote. The volunteers froze, embarrassed. "We did not mean—" "Yes, you did," she cut in. "But I will tell you something. The only reason this place exists is because he believed in the kind of goodness you just mocked." The women left quietly, but the sting lingered. That night, Sofia sat in the empty hall, staring at the half-painted wall where she had planned to draw a mural. Daniel found her there, sitting alone. "I heard what happened." "It is fine," she said, forcing a smile. "People will always talk." He sat beside her. "Maybe they are right to. You gave your trust to someone who lied once." She looked up, surprised by his honesty. He continued, "But you still stayed. That makes you braver than I ever was." Sofia reached for the brush and handed it to him. "Then, help me finish this wall. Maybe actions will speak louder than all of us." They painted until midnight, the scent of fresh color filling the room. On the wall, Sofia drew a circle of hands, different colors, different sizes, reaching toward the same flame. Underneath, she wrote in quiet letters, "Kindness builds what truth sustains." When the center finally opened, the mayor attended. But the true celebration came from the people inside: the single mothers, the veterans, the families who found a place to belong. During his speech, Daniel said, This place began because one person believed a stranger could be telling the truth. Sofia taught me that real wealth is trust rebuilt, not money regained. Applause filled the hall. Cameras flashed. But in that moment, the world around them faded. Sofia met his eyes and felt something calm, almost sacred, a peace that no rumor could stain. Later, under the quiet evening light, Daniel took her hand and whispered, "Do you ever think about how it started? A garage? A lie? A storm?" She smiled faintly. "And a choice." He brushed a streak of paint from her cheek. "The best one I ever made." The sound of children laughing echoed down the hall, blending with music and the soft creak of new doors opening. And for the first time, Sofia realized their story was no longer about deception or redemption. It was about what happens after the reveal when love becomes purpose. Winter came early that year. The first snow dusted the roof of the Maple Youth Center like powdered sugar. Inside, strings of lights hung from the ceiling, and children were decorating a small Christmas tree near the window. Sofia adjusted the star on top while Daniel handed out boxes of donated coats. The center was alive with noise music, laughter, and the soft chaos of a place built from love rather than perfection. It had been 6 months since the grand opening. What started as an idea born in regret had become something that mattered to an entire town. The garage still ran, now employing several people from the community. The cafe where Sofia once worked had partnered with the center to provide meals every weekend. Life was not flawless, but it was full, and that felt like enough. That evening, after the families left, Daniel and Sofia sat on the front steps watching snow fall under the streetlight. She wrapped her scarf tighter and smiled. "Do you ever think about how different everything is now?" Daniel nodded. "Every day. I used to believe wealth could buy freedom, but it only bought distance. This," he gestured toward the glowing windows, "this feels like the first thing that ever made me free." Sofia rested her head on his shoulder. "You know, I used to hate that you lied to me. I still hate that I did," he said quietly. "But if I had not, we might never have met this way." She laughed softly. "That sounds like something a rich man would say." He grinned. "Maybe. But now I am rich in different ways." Quote. From his coat pocket, Daniel pulled out a small worn envelope and handed it to her. Inside was a folded $10 bill, creased, faded, but familiar. Her breath caught. "You kept it." "I told myself I would give it back when I finally earned the right to," he said. "It reminded me that kindness should never be taken for granted." Sofia looked down at the bill, remembering the cafe, the rain, and the man who had handed it to her with a quiet smile months ago. "Then I guess it is yours again." He shook his head. "No, it belongs to both of us now. It is proof that love is real when it costs something." They sat in silence for a moment, the sound of wind weaving through the trees. Then Daniel turned to her with that same calm certainty she had come to recognize. "There is one more thing I have been meaning to ask." He reached into his jacket again, this time pulling out a small box. Inside was a ring, not silver, not gold, but a simple platinum band engraved with 2 words, "True always." Sofia gasped softly. "Daniel," he smiled. "The first ring I gave you cost less than $10. This one is not about money either. It is about choosing the same person, even after the truth." Her eyes filled with tears. "You are asking me again?" "Yes," he whispered. "To marry me, not the man I pretended to be, not the man they talk about online, but me, the one who still believes in us." For a long moment she said nothing. Then she nodded, her voice breaking. "Yes, Daniel, always yes." Snow fell heavier now, clinging to their hair, their coats, the steps beneath them. From inside, the children's laughter echoed again as someone turned the music back on. Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, where the silver one still rested. 2 circles, side by side, one born from struggle, one from truth. He whispered, "Everyone laughed when you married a poor man. I hope now they understand why you did." Sofia smiled through her tears. "Let them laugh again. We will just keep proving them wrong." The camera of memory would have caught that moment, the snow, the lights, the quiet promise between 2 people who had lost everything except their faith in each other. The world had mocked them once. Now it watched them rebuild it, one act of kindness at a time. And as the night settled over the small town, Sofia's voice, steady, soft, full of peace, rose in the silence. "True wealth is not found in fortune or fame. It is found in the hearts that keep giving, even after being broken. Before you go, I would love to know, what do you think defines real wealth in love? Is it trust, forgiveness, or something deeper that words can barely explain? Share your answer in the comments below. and thank you for joining us in this story.